make a move and the bunny gets it.
I said, put the bunny back in the box. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
It's showtime.
Roar. Roar.
Colonel Ironsides here. 200 years I stood in the gap, fighting those who would harm my country. It was my honor, my sacred duty, so help me God. 9 times they took my life. 9 times I stood back up and made them pay. The freedom fighter and I could handle anything, but someone betrayed me. I was ambushed, made mortal, rendered powerless, and retired. They passed an amendment that made me a civilian before I left the hospital. For 50 years I watched my country change. Watched this work while erasing me from history. The day I quit my job, I powered up and discovered they lied about that too. I'll remind them of freedom. I'll remind them of duty. I'll remind them of their oaths and who they serve. I'll remind them while I'm shoving it down their throats.
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I wanna know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Good evening. Welcome to Thursday nights. It's the Gen X Files, pop culture from the point of view of the generation for which it was created. Tonight, I don't have a Gen Xer. I just have a fellow nerd. He's an honorary Gen Xer. I'll give him that. But anyway, we bring him aboard. Welcome to the show, Mr. Jared.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
All right.
Hey, it's not much. I do have your nerd wall back there kind of makes me feel a little inferior. Gives me a little insecurity, I have to say.
We all have those moments.
Wow. Goodness gracious. Look at that, man. Anyway, so all that is created by somebody else, and tonight we're going to talk about something that you created.
Hell yeah.
Is that a new thing for you?
Creating a new comic? Yeah, it's like this is
awesome.
my first actual project that I've actually seriously put a lot of work into. Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I've working on one myself. I did my trailer earlier. I have to say that acquiring comics and reading comics is it's nowhere near as involved as having to actually like create one. Uh, gives you new appreciation. I have to say. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like
Definitely.
it's like, oh, so this
Uh,
is what it feels like to be staring at a blank screen for an hour.
right. Well, you also you kind of like delved into the kind of the Greek mythology a little bit.
A little
Um,
bit, yeah.
you judging from your thumbnails on your channel, you might just have a little bit of a Wonder Woman kind of affection,
Yeah,
maybe sort of, kind of,
in
maybe.
in in recent months, she's kind of become like my favorite superhero, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But it's like when I think back on it, I think about DC, and it's the reason why I kind of gravitated more toward DC than Marvel. I like Marvel too, but I think the reason why I gravitated more toward DC is because growing up, I was always more of like a fan of Greek mythology in that sense. And it's like DC of the two, in addition to Wonder Woman, really like leans in hard into that like idea of like these heroes are like gods amongst men, essentially.
Yeah. DC definitely. Uh, I've always kind of like that's really the distinction between Marvel and DC is DC pretty much is gods among us, and Marvel is pretty much like people, ordinary people with superpowers. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of depends on what you want out of your superhero as to which one you kind of prefer, what your slant is. DC's definitely more along the lines of godlike beings dwelling among ordinary men, as opposed to Marvel being ordinary men with godlike powers.
Yeah,
Uh, you
exactly.
know, so in a lot of ways, I think that people kind of miss the connection between modern superheroes and mythology.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
you know, I,
It's like
go
one
ahead.
of the sayings that like one of like the things that I always say to people who like doubt comic books or like look down on it is like, look, this is no different from like in Athens when the average Joe Schmo is telling stories about Zeus. It's the modern like mythology, which is kind of funny to think about because it's like back then when they were arguing about like stories, were they like Zeus would never say that, Athena would never do that.
Right, right. I don't know. We really don't have a lot of like I guess secondary information to go off of.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, a lot of the sources that we have are actually from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years later, and so we don't really. We kind of have some idea of what the mythologies were like, but for the most part, what we got in pop culture, what's influenced pop culture is a very, I mean, especially one to one almost when it comes to Western comics into superheroes and gods and goddesses mythology. One thing I always liked about mythology was the how kind of niche it is. In that every single god or goddess had uh, like their bailiwick or their particular focus, and they had their power sets, as it were, and they also had
Mm-hmm.
their uh, you know places where they kind of are supreme, and because of that. I think that kind of directly correlates to when you see superheroes, kind of like the costuming, kind of like
Mhm.
their particular powers that they have, and I think a lot of that apportioning out comes from particularly Greek mythology. I think
Oh yeah, and it's
all of them
like
have it to some extent.
yeah, as like, and obviously, especially Wonder Woman, because of the DC hero, she is the one that is even more focused in on that. And even they've done stories like I think it was like last run before Tom King came on and destroyed everything, but I'm pretty sure it was like the previous run. She went into Norse mythology, so I kind of like how because that in and of itself leads to like unique storytelling opportunities because the Norse gods and Greek gods are two very different groups of people. They may seem similar, but
Yeah,
no.
right. No, no. Yeah, Tom King is pretty much the world ending event. If he shows up to write your book, it's pretty much the end of
Mhm.
all things.
So me
Uh,
being a Wonder Woman fan,
yeah,
you can
anybody
tell
can take
why I'm
that.
suffering.
Yeah, yeah, I imagine so. And Tom King gets attached to your favorite hero, just more. Just go ahead and mourn it. I mean, you know,
Which here's the
don't
thing,
don't
though. It
don't have
it's
any hope. Abandon all hope. All he who enter. You know,
which here's the difference, though, because now you have the absolute books, which is like the more I like I hesitate to say like hardcore version of like these characters, but with the Wonder Woman book, it's just Wonder Woman, but she was raised in hell instead, but she still acts like Wonder Woman. And speaking of like Greek mythology, this run, Absolute Wonder Woman, is heavily focused on that part of Wonder Woman that honestly has been like absent from her books for like I want to say a decade or two because it's like they used to like heavily go in on like what are the gods doing? How is that going to like inform how like Diana relates to the world? But it's like they seem to like it's kind of funny about DC is that occasionally they'll go through a phase where they're trying to be like Marvel, where they're going to try and like humanize their characters. That's why we get like five different versions of the Superman is evil trope or something like that. But then it gets into like you start to lose like the identity of these characters because too many people want Marvel to be like DC, and I'm like, no. It's not called Marvel Comics slash DC. It's called DC Comics. Let them be different.
right. Yeah. Honestly, I'm so far into indie comics. These pay little attention
Mm-hmm.
to pretty much know of the absolute series is that the guy who does about, but yeah, real charmer.
Yeah.
But when it comes to um, I think uh, a lot of uh, they uh, pretty much as our mythology does, and
Yeah.
are are pretty much like they have the like differentiate civilizations and cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
One second. Okay. Sorry, my internet is not working very well today.
It's all
You
good.
just have to bear with me. It just
Okay.
tanked out. But anyway, just when you went to do your comic, you kind of like uh, you kind of focused in on the Greek mythology, but
Yeah.
it seems like you've taken your pantheon off world, and so is this
Mhm.
a parallel world, an alien world?
Okay, so what I kind of did with this, it's the idea that like I wanted to sort of combine the two my two loves of superheroes and Greek mythology. And what I kind of did, the way I did this is there's a team of superheroes called the Pantheon, but it's like they're all named after Greek mythology characters. Not all of them are going to be actual like characters from Greek mythology. Like I do have one who is from a story in Greek mythology, but it's like it's not necessarily like that. It's like an alternate Earth. Well, it kind of is because it's like there's superheroes on this Earth, but it's like it's the idea that like I wanted to like explore partly like what what does it mean to be a hero, but also what does it mean to have great power and protect people, as opposed to like using great power to like, for lack of a better term, control people. Because my main character is like a princess that has like spent on her planet. She spent all of her time in like the lap of luxury. While she didn't know this at the time, the lower class of her people were like suffering. And I go into this much deeper later in the series, but it's the idea that it's like where she learns so she comes to the planet to Earth to hide. She meets the characters, and then it's like she starts to learn. The first arc is all about her identity growing into like Athena, the goddess of thunder, a superhero of Earth, a defender of Earth, because she always feels responsible for not being able to protect her home previously, because obviously she had to flee, as it's like in the trailer. So it's like the idea of like, I'm not going to let another world, another family die, essentially.
Okay. Oh, so you do have a trailer. Oh, okay.
I do. It should be on the campaign page.
Okay. I guess I missed that.
That's all good.
You think you could bring it up and play it?
Yep. I got you.
Okay.
So let me do that. All right, here
Yeah.
we go. All right, it should be
Sorry,
sharing
I usually like upload or so.
It's all good.
All right, no problem. All right, share now.
All right, so let's do this.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, and here we go.
My home has been invaded, my people slaughtered, and I could not do anything to stop it. Not again. I will not lose another home, another family. I am Princess Lyra of the planet Sutragar, Athena, the goddess of thunder, and this is my story.
Yeah, so that's that, and it's like it's the idea of like she's going to go through and she's going to learn what it means to be a superhero, to be of service to other people, and to use like her power in order to benefit others. Because later on in like the first arc, as I had plans for roughly 3 arcs, but more if it gets really big. But later in the first arc, the first arc is also about her learning the full extent of her powers, because she's never really understood what exactly she can do, because it's something very specific. Yeah, she shoots lightning, but there's something very, very, very like subtle that she can do with that is explored later in the issue. That it's like it's more of like what her role is to be in like this new world, if you will.
Okay. Is this is she like from another planet?
She is.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so once she arrived on the world, she became a pantheon, or did she just take the place of the pantheon? Or
No, so what happened is so what happens as like time goes on is that so she has to leave her home planet because it's being invaded by the dude in black armor. I call him Xerxes. So it's because he's this warlord and he knows that like if he can control her will, he'll have like unlimited power. So she goes to Earth,
Okay.
and it's the idea is that the Pantheon is like, hey, why don't you join us? Because yeah, we'll protect you against him if he comes here. Plus, it's like there's strength in numbers. Because the other thing that you learn in on her world, there were superpowered people on her world, but Xerxes like hunted them down one by one and killed them all. The difference here is that now they're all united on Earth. All the superheroes are united under one banner of the Pantheon, like Might Justice League. Essentially, it's like it's essentially like it's playing off that old ad from the Justice League trailers from like the movies that says you can't save the world alone. It's kind of like that. So it's like it's very much like the few becoming one, if you will, in terms of like they're all like one unit united for a common cause.
Okay. All right. All right. I guess she's kind of like the leader of the group then.
No, she's the newest member. The dude in white is the leader.
Okay, so Atlas, right?
Yeah, Atlas. Yeah, that is correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I did read it. I did read it.
Thank you.
Just missed the trailer.
It's all good.
Anyway, well, I mean, one thing that I think the theme, the reason why Western comics is actually better than the Pantheon, the Greek Pantheon, and the other pantheons is that they tend to be very, while Western comics is more aspirational.
Yeah.
It's people trying to do well or trying to do good by the people they protect. For the most part, before the evil British invasion slanted everything nihilism. The grand deconstruction happened. The Tom Kings of the world showed up.
Oh God.
But the thing about it is when you read those old stories, those old mythologies, the gods aren't the heroes.
Nope.
If the gods do anything good, it's kind of like a ghost in the machine kind of thing where they sweep in the last second,
and it's more of I'm doing good for you so you can owe me something later. That's what that's really for.
Right. Hey, Nix. Good to see you.
Nix.
Good to see you. Nix. Anyway. Well, it's in a lot of ways, one of my problems that I had with my Christianity was that my idea of God was basically Zeus, and I had this kind of Zeusican figure in my head of what God that's who God was. I'm not entirely sure where I got that from, but God was all vengeance, all kind of like kind of up his own patoot, kind of somebody you couldn't talk to, you couldn't reason with, he's going to do what he's going to do, that kind of thing. And it took me a while to kind of like get past that and kind of get a better view. But but when you look at the Greek gods, they weren't aspirational. They weren't people that you were kind of like you were trying to please them so they wouldn't destroy you.
Yeah, they were the ones you should be afraid of.
Exactly. And for the most part, the demigods, they were kind of like the heroes, of the Greek mythologies. But they were always like victims of whatever the gods did, and if you look at them, like none of the demigods ever had a happy ending. Like,
nope.
None of them. Maybe Odysseus, maybe.
Maybe Perseus, maybe, but kind of.
Yeah, kind of, but not really. But that was kind of like the thing, they wanted people to kind of like fear the gods, and so it was kind of like their apparatus of control. The priest that of this particular deity would say, "Well, you need to do this, or bad things happen," or things will ensue that you don't want to occur. But at the same time, when it comes to Western superheroes, Superman was somebody that you could look up to, somebody that you could admire, or there's a reason why fatherless sons will have a Superman tattoo on them, and or a Batman tattoo or something like that, too. Something that, or even a Punisher tattoo, which I'm not sure who's aspirational, but they're,
Oh boy, who's aspiring to be Frank Castle? Oh no, I'm not sure I want to meet that person.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most of those guys are warriors overseas, so I think.
Well, yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
So keep that Frank Castle love over there. Keep that over there. Anyway.
Well,
of course, these days,
the other thing on that,
I wouldn't mind a little Frank Castle in this.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is kind of interesting is like I've always considered, so the reason why Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are like the Trinity, they are like the leaders of the DC universe, because when you really break down to who they are, they represent the three factors of what makes a superhero: justice, truth, and hope. Batman being justice, Wonder Woman truth, Superman's justice. Hope. But when you think about it, Wonder Woman is the most important of the three, even though DC doesn't treat her as such. Because when you think about it, with truth, you can't have true justice unless you actually have truth, because you need to understand the facts behind a criminal case or anything like that to determine what truly happened. And you can't be hopeful unless you know the truth, or you're truthful to yourself. So with everything revolving around truth, it really indicates that Wonder Woman herself is the most important superhero of DC. Now, DC doesn't treat her like that, but that's their own problem.
Well, one thing about her in particular is, kind of early on, she wasn't really well developed, but once people started to really kind of developing her and kind of figuring out, actually focusing on a person from this background, a person that was created out of clay to be like an emissary to the humans, what would that person's priorities be and things like that. I think the Marvels, it was the Marvels, Kingdom Come.
Yes.
Kind of, was the first time I really saw a really scary Wonder Woman, a Wonder Woman who's like a warrior,
Here's the thing on that with that version of Wonder Woman. Was she really? Because when you think about it, when you look at the world had lost hope, and all of the active superheroes, I use air quotes on superheroes because everyone that was with powers was causing a wreck around the place. It was destroying and killing innocent people. So the way I always thought is that Wonder Woman was responding to a threat proportionally. And it's even when so she was fine until they put them in this special prison in the desert. And then it's they started breaking out. So Wonder Woman's hey, we tried to contain them. That didn't work. Maybe it's time we started exploring force. And it's when you look at it, it's eventually she turned away from that. It was no, because in that storyline, it showed that at first her people stripped her of her role as an ambassador because they felt that she had failed in her mission to promote peace. But through what she did at the end of the story, she actually promoted peace. So it's more of she fulfilled that role and she got her crown back. If there's any version of Wonder Woman that is the warrior evil Wonder Woman, that's the Injustice Gods Among Us Wonder Woman that's based on those Mortal Kombat games, because they made that one the devil on Superman's shoulder that kept pushing him more toward evil so that he could subjugate man's world. And I'm What did you do?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I grew up with the Linda Carter version, and so
That's a good one.
she's kind of she's kind of the one I default to, and she was always more, uh, always more royal, in the way she interacted. She was more of a princess. She kind of leaned into the princess thing, and but she was that particular version of Wonder Woman is very aspirational. There was one later, I think Adrian something other. I can't remember her last name.
Had
She was also in the
Lucky, I think. I know it started. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's something like I think Jared Padalecki is like the supernatural guy. I can't remember. It started with a P. It did start with a P, but her version of Wonder Woman was like really kind of selfish and kind of like, of course they didn't get past the pilot, I think because people were like, that's not Wonder Woman. I don't know who that is. That's not Wonder Woman. But then, Gal Gadot comes along or Gal Gadot.
She's my Wonder Woman. She was Wonder Woman when I first came into that. I think she kind of got the whole eccentricity. Like I was always very hesitant on her as Wonder Woman because I'm like, really, the Fast and the Furious girl. But then what sold me is like in Batman versus Superman when she's talking to Batman and Batman goes, I've known a few women like you, and then she turns to him, just smiles and goes, I don't think you've ever known a woman like me. And I go, yeah, that's Diana. Because if Diana, if written well, is very sassy. If you can get the sass of Diana, you got the character. Or like when she's knocked back by Doomsday and she just smiles because she's enjoying the fight. And I go, yeah, that's great.
Oh, when she blocks him with the bracers and she blocks like the blast.
I love that.
And then she's kind of like, okay, now this is a fight. This is something I can get into.
Because exactly.
She's kind of used to being like having kid gloves on all the time, and so this was something that she could really, go all out. And there's kind of a joy to her when, her taking him on. I actually like that version of her a little better than the one that we saw in Justice League. I felt like that one was more warrior than the one we saw in Justice League, and in the first Wonder Woman movie. But I think that the first Wonder Woman movie in that particular one was probably closer than the one we saw in Justice League, and that might have been Joss Whedon, messing with things.
Watch the Snyder cut. It's very much that version of it. It's very much the more BVS and like Wonder Woman 2017 version of the character. Because that's the thing. Zach gets a lot of heat.
I've seen it. I just only saw it once.
It's like Zach gets a lot of heat, but here's why I've always loved his movies, particularly DC movies, because he very much weighs in on like the characters being modern mythology, like the way even some of the images he has of like Superman floating as people like reaching for a savior, or like the last image you have of the Justice League, they're on that silo and there's epic music playing and they're all like posing, and I'm like, it's like. Because he like understands that like there was a place for like these characters to be jokey, but it's like when you think about it, where they are in our like cultural zeitgeist and like in like pop cultural zeitgeist, it's like they are like the modern form of like of mythology. Comics are essentially like the modern version of cave paintings when you really think about it.
Yeah, I have told people before that superheroes could date all the way back to cave painting. I say, you think that one guy with one spear is going to take down a beast that size? That's superhero comic right there. Got a comment over here right quick. Let me see. Oh, hell and stuff. Hey, Wrangler, good to see you, man. Think about. Like thing I like to mess around, even with mine, because in my comic, the gods were all like superpower beings, and but they're kind of immortal, and so in my world, you might run into one. You know, like one of my main characters is a son of Poseidon. You
Oh,
know,
cool.
well, and he's got daddy issues. Okay, but you know,
As
but
they
he's
all
the son of
do.
Poseidon, as they all do, as all you know, gods and demigods have. But you know, the thing that I really like to play around with is the fact that in his case, you know, he was worshipped for a little while, but you know, in my world they all knew that they weren't beings, they weren't gods. I mean, some of them thought that they were gods, but a lot of them really kind of understood that they were just superpowered beings, you know. And so but you know, I can imagine being a superpowered being could swell your head, you know, and I can see where you could abuse that. I think modern writers are kind of stuck on the idea that if I had powers, I would abuse it, and so, i.e., any character I write has to have that because I can't write anybody that's not beat down me. And
Exactly. And that's the overall issue that I run into a lot of the times with like my criticism of some DC writers, some Marvel writers is like it's not just Tom King, although he is the biggest my mortal enemy if for lack of a better term for this. It's like they keep saying I put a lot of I love this interaction because at one point Tom King was on a panel with Frank Miller talking about
oh,
Batman.
I remember
And,
that. I
yeah, it's
remember
so
that.
good. So for those that don't know what happens, so Tom King was talking about, I put a lot of myself into Batman, how I would react if I were Batman. Then Frank just turns to him and goes, "You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to do it the way is supposed to react, how Batman would react." And I love that because that's so true. Too many of these writers are like, "Oh, if I were Superman, here's what I would say." I'm not asking if you were Superman. I'm asking
No.
how would Clark Kent react in this situation?
Well, see, that takes like imagination. It takes
True.
it takes the ability to see somebody else's perspective of your own. But most of these people are like so narcissistic
Mm-hmm.
that everything that they write essentially has to be like extensions of themselves. And I mean, you see like the writers like at the pinnacle of comics, which I consider probably the Bronze Age. Uh, you know, everybody like pinnacle comics is when they first started reading, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
So my when I started reading, it was pretty much Bronze Age. But I was there for Claremont. I was there for Anno Cinti. You know, I was there for my favorite Weezy Simonson, people like that. And the one thing that they did better than anybody before, or probably since, in my opinion, is they were able to write characters, not caricatures. And so when you see a lot of these mythologies and stuff like that, the gods and goddesses, uh, they were always like forces of nature. They were always kind of like, you know, people's perception of like Poseidon, you know, god of seas and earthquakes. Zeus had the sky and the firmament, and Poseidon had like the land and the seas, and then Hades had the underworld, and so it was kind of like, you know, a layer right there, and uh, and everybody else kind of like had different aspects of lives, you know, but uh, but I think what was really cool about, you know, Western comics at one point was that these characters are so unique and so distinctive that you can have entire conversations about what would Peter Parker do,
Yeah.
and you could actually have that discussion to where, you know, well, Peter Parker would never do that, and then you can make that argument because, you know, of course, here lately, you know, the last few years when all the tourists have come into comics, if you said, well, Peter Parker would never do that. Well, Peter Parker's fictional. Well, Peter Parker can do whatever I want Peter Parker to do. And it's like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
Peter Parker is a distinctive character with distinctive moral fiber, moral compass, and there's things that Peter would not do.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Just because you would do it doesn't mean that you can write Peter Parker doing that thing. And that's where it all broke down. And so,
and the thing about it is like these writers, it's like it's like the conversation becomes, well, if you want to write, well, why don't you write a Spider-Man like character that does blank, 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 blank. But again, to your point, this gets back to none of these people are creative enough to create their own stuff. So they leech on to what's established before that has an established fan base, because that's what they are. They're leeches.
Right. Well, the way I know that I've done something right is when I write a scene and my character does something that I didn't see coming. That my character does something that fits with them. It's something that they would do, and it rings true to them, but it's something that it's like, wait a second, and when I'm writing at the pinnacle of the best that I can do, that's when those things happen. That's when I know that, okay, I'm writing a character, I'm not writing me as a character, because this, I've got a character that in my book that is he's kind of like a guide, a fourth wall breaking guide to the world, and it was kind of a way for me to do an info dump without doing an info dump.
There you go.
And so he's called Mr. MacGuffin, if you get it. You get it. Okay.
All right, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. But anyway, but the thing about it is though is about halfway through he started like doing picking up like his own attributes, picking up, and he started out as an extension of me. It was kind of like a way to stick myself in the comic book. But then he started doing these little things, little subtle things that I wouldn't do, and I was like, holy crap, I don't even know who this dude is anymore. So I'm along for the ride too. And that's when you're doing something good, And I think a lot of people have lost that. So your current this book that you wrote, did you have moments like that where that character took a left turn when if it was you would have took a right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so when I was writing this, one of the things, and so the parts that gave me, I won't say trouble, but it's like stuff that I really thought long and hard about was how do I make it so like you relatively know who these characters are supposed to represent, but it doesn't look like it's a ripoff, because you and I both know some characters that are straight up easily seen as like it's like a ripoff, but it's like, so I want to make it distinctly enough that it's like my own characters. But it's like, yeah, to that point, it's like I had moments when I was writing, because I have the entire first volume like completely written. I just have to have it edited by my editor. But it's like when I was going through this, I'm like, okay, so because what it really is like when you're writing the story, and it's like what logically the character would do in the point in the story that you're writing may not always be what you would do in that scenario, but it's like that's what the character, in order to get from A to E, you have to go through B, C, D, and like the other letters, if you will, and maybe C, maybe branch C is not the choice you would make, but because you need to get to a certain point, because a certain plot point has to happen, it's gonna be like, oh, I did have a moment where I was writing that, I'm like, oh wow, that's new, and I'm like, yeah, but you just go with it. In a lot of ways, comic writing is kind of like playing a game where like you start off with a prompt, and then part of it shows up, and then randomly another part will like show up, and you have to like adjust and go, okay, it goes here, it goes here. I even had moments where like as I was writing this part of the story, I was like, yeah, this doesn't really make sense for what I want to do, or I'm rushing it, because that was the other part that I was like, because I know for certain, I know certain plot points have to happen for like arc 1, for instance, but I wanted to make sure when I was writing this, I'm like, this is paced well, right? I don't want it to seem like I'm just flying through all these plot points to get to the end.
Right. Well, the first book is always the most difficult for that. Find your pacing, because if you're basically launching a world, launching a story, introducing the characters, and you're juggling all this, and you got to land on your feet while chewing gum and patting your tummy at the same time.
Yep, exactly.
And it's, it's taken. I'm like 2 years into my book, and I'm just now finally like getting to where I was like, okay, I think I know how to land the plane now, But
yeah, exactly.
But especially when you're dealing with superpowered beings, that especially Western comic style superpowered beings, you're also dealing with an idealized part of humanity in some way, shape, or form. Because if these people did exist in our world, they would probably abuse the crap out of it. Okay, let's be honest. And but so what you're basically you're making them realistic enough to identify with, but at the same time they've got to be just like the gods and goddesses. They've got to be a little bit bigger than humanity. They got to stand for something a little bit more than a normal person does.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man. I keep going back to him, but he's an example that everybody knows. Or Superman. Superman works too. But at the same time, if that character is just a little bit better, a little bit bigger, and mean a little bit more than normal humans, the humans around them, then you failed in your job writing some like a god or goddess or superhero or whatever, because then you've kind of made it a moot point that they have powers. I watched that show, The Boys, for long as I could tolerate it, and it wasn't long. It was like halfway through the first season or whatever, before I just completely okay, I can't stand this anymore. But the thing about it is all these characters were just as petty as normal humans. They were just as slimy. They were just as venal. They were just as self-centered. They were just celebrities, basically.
Yeah.
And but they were faking being something bigger and more aspirational and bigger and higher, right? And it was just like, it was so cynical. I mean, it's so British invasion. They're so damn cynical. I mean, Mark Millar or whatever you want to call him, all the time saying, "What happened to comics?" Well, you happened to comics, Mark. You and those nihilistic British assholes that came into comics like Alan Moore and
don't need to be started on Alan
Tex
Moore
Arrow and all those other guys. Well, but they came in and they took that away. They took that away from Western comics. That being a little better, a little bigger, and they might have the struggles, but they're going to land someplace aspirational. They're going to be a little better than I am, or they're going to be a little bigger than I am. They're going to stand in the gap and be braver than I could be. But because I look up to these characters, it made me a little better. It made me be a little braver. It made me be, focus on being a better person.
Yeah. And that's what they are.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, it's like I've always said that like one of the interesting things about Superman particularly is like Superman's seen as like boring, he's too powerful and stuff. But I'm like, no, the thing about Superman is that he's a dude that has super strength, shoots laser out of his eyes. but he's also an ideal in and of himself. It's the ideal that like of optimism and being hopeful and like persevering, if you will. Like in that one issue of All-Star Superman when the girl is about to jump and Superman shows up behind her and goes, "You are so much stronger than you could possibly think you are." And I'm like, that one page is summarizes Superman and why he works, because no, he's supposed to be the inspirational being that's like, look, he's the guy that like when all hope seems lost, he shows up to save you.
Well, one thing about Man of Steel, the first commercial for that was probably the greatest superhero commercial ever. But when before we found out that Jonathan Kent was kind of an asshole, but when he gave the whole speech about that someday they'll rise with you, that you
That's my favorite speech. That's my favorite speech in a Superman
It's a great speech. It's a great speech, and it just summed up what Superman is. Superman is there to inspire. He's there to push humanity to be better, to bigger, and to eventually reach the level that Krypton was. And he was there to basically push them forward, not to like be like a thing that takes care of all their problems, so they don't.
Yeah,
they
he's
don't
not
grow.
supposed to.
Exactly, he's supposed to stand beside of them. He's supposed to inspire them, right?
Mhm.
And
It's like, for lack of a better term, Superman's like mankind's parent, because he can't do everything for them, but he's supposed to like guide them and point them in the right direction. Like, look, this is where you should be going. This is what you should be doing.
right, and Clark always works best when he's doing that.
Yeah.
I didn't see the newest Superman, but
It's okay.
Well, I mean, he didn't seem that aspirational to me. He seemed kind of like But
He was kind of a
either
wimp.
way, I think there you go. But the thing about Clark, and what they did get right in like Batman versus Superman was when he basically when Batman was basically like he's going to kill you, and Superman's kind of like, I know, but who else is there?
Mm-hmm.
This is me. I've got to do this, and that's always when Doomsday was tearing through the Justice League and leaving everybody in their wake, and Superman's they're basically like saying, Superman, he's going to kill you, and Superman's like, he's like, there's nobody else.
Well, even on that, my favorite moment in Batman versus Superman is actually one of the, not necessarily a fight scene. It's when you have the media talking about how Superman could be a threat and everything like that. And it's just over a montage of him just saving people. And what that's saying is like, yeah, you could say whatever the hell you want about him. You could say he could be here to destroy us. He's still going to save us. It doesn't make a difference. He's here to save us. He's not here for your approval. He's here for your benefit, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and that's pretty much a Christological figure,
Mm-hmm.
Christ came to save humanity, and what did they do? They crucified him. They killed him, and so that's you see a lot of that happen over and over again. I guess a recent example, Charlie Kirk, in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that seemed to be all about benefiting others, and somebody just murdered him for it, and it's and that thing about aspirational figures like that. What happened what happened after that? Did they burn cities down? No, churches overflowed and people started finding their faith again, and that's what aspirational figures do, is that they lead the way, they set the example, they inspire, and I mean, I don't know that the gods and goddesses did that back in the
No.
day.
No, they were more like, no,
but-
we have to, as you said earlier, they're more like, no, we have to worship them and not piss them off. Otherwise, they will murder us.
Yeah. Otherwise, oh well, Poseidon didn't get his virgin this year. Oh, he wiped out the whole seaport town with a tidal wave.
Or it's like,
you know.
or it's like, you pissed off Athena, she turns you into Medusa.
There you go. Yeah, because you thought you were prettier than her, and she's
I'm like, or it's like in Clash of the Titans where the mother goes to Andromeda and goes, "You're more beautiful than the goddesses," and then the mother is like, as they aged up until she dies. And I'm like, God damn it, you can't win with these people.
Right. Well, I think what happened was these god and goddesses stories, the style of story, kind of mixed up with the Christianity, and kind of like created a hybrid that up until the mid '80s when these assholes came in from England, really kind of this whole entire inspirational thing of even like the X-Men had this whole thing of you hate me, but I'm still going to save you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the genius thing about the X-Men. The other thing about the X-Men is that what I always loved about them, they represent the best Marvel ever did with like representation or something like that. Because here's what the X-Men did. They made it general enough that anyone that's ever felt othered or didn't fit in, doesn't matter race, gender, nationality, what have you. They made it general enough that literally everyone could relate to them. So that's why they work, as opposed to like 2016 and on Marvel, where they're constantly like race and gender bending characters, and it doesn't work. It never works because you make it so hyper focused on one community, the already existing fan base is going to leave, and there's not enough of the community you're trying to cater to support that book.
It lost its universality.
Yeah, exactly. If you put the universality into there, or it's like with Batman, everyone has encountered at one point adversity, or at some point everyone's had a family member or a friend die. It happens. So it's like, it's how do you respond to that trauma and that essentially how do you persevere through the tough times in life? Because that's what Batman really is. Because the Bat God, he has a contingency plan for everything, has become a meme at this point, but it's also like the idea that like he perseveres through everything despite the fact that he is a dude amongst gods.
Well, the thing about Batman that they miss is he had one moment in his life completely unplanned, and it ended his childhood, and so from that moment on, he's almost hyper focused on everything, every I being dotted, every T being crossed, to the extent to an almost like. I mean, I always thought that Batman had to be on the spectrum. I think he definitely has a little bit of autism, because to be that hyper focused, and be that completely, totally like got the blinders on, and just making sure that there are no more dead parents in the streets in front of a child, and to be that determined that that's going to happen, that it almost doesn't allow you any other thing in your life. But,
exactly.
But at the same time, that is that aspirational part of heroism. One more comment here. Batman with prep time equals check bars.
That's so true.
Okay.
That's so true.
I'll go with that. I'll go with that.
That's so true.
Well, you're I really like your book. I like the look of it.
Thank you.
I think it's unique enough that and you've already got it finished, and before you even
it's all done, all done, all drawn. I'm not gonna wait like 6 months for it to be drawn. And like, look, guys, I have a page for you.
Yeah, right. Well, that's pretty much what I'm doing. But anyway,
Yeah, but
I felt
it's like
seen there. I felt seen there. But anyway.
yeah, but it's like my point is there are a lot of creators out there that like promise books but take 3 years to deliver, and they're updating 3 years later, and they're like, look, I penciled this page, and I go, you're still penciling?
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute here.
Yeah. Well, I get it. I get it. Well, I mean, at the same time, I think that
Mhm.
that's probably a good idea, and I'll
Mhm.
probably do that next time.
Mhm.
But you know,
Yeah, whichever works.
whichever works, whichever works. But it looks like you've got a whole entire series ready to go. You're going to have
Pretty much.
probably pretty consistently out of the can. Um, Now, it's what would you say if somebody were to say this is probably going to be a criticism that you'll probably hear, and I'm sure you're already anticipating what I'm going to say here. Um, what would you say to someone that says it sounds generic?
Well,
What's the thing that really distinguishes it?
well, the thing that really distinguishes it is that to a degree, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. I know what like the end of these 12 issues are gonna be, so it's like I can plan for like the story. Second off, it's like I'm of the opinion that you could never have enough aspirational characters that are inherently good or trying to be good. Because in a market where everyone is trying
Okay.
to be like the like anti-heroes, or like they're shooting a crowd or something like that, it's like you need a lot more of the more, as we said, the aspirational heroes pre like Alan Moore making all the heroes being like a-holes and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's the other idea is like, yeah, you can if you think it's generic, that's your opinion, but it's like if you read the entire series, I do a lot of stuff that, let me put it this way, I do what Marvel and DC are afraid to do. In other words, what would help them, but they clearly won't do.
Okay. So I guess you could say that your selling point is this is Wonder Woman if they knew what if they would do what they need to do with it. Right?
Pretty
So,
much. And the number one thing that I will never do, and this is the main thing that Marvel and DC continually screw up, I will never insult my customers, because let's be honest, that's what a lot of these creators do for some reason.
you mean you don't have disdain for the person that's actually going to buy your book? You
I
don't
know,
disdain
right?
them?
I
You don't
know,
think you're
right?
better than them?
I know.
Wow, what a really strange concept. Oh my god.
So in that way, it's not generic.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, okay. So this has been Jared from Comics Lead. He's got a really nice size channel over there. I've got the link to that in the description.
Thank you.
His campaign's on Kickstarter. You ever consider taking it to FMC at some point?
At some point, or right now, because it's my first actual fundraising campaign, I kind of want to keep it simple for this first one, and then down the line, as I gain more experience, maybe I'll bring it to other platforms as well.
Okay, all right. Well, a certain person of our acquaintance that we both
yeah
has a real hate on for FMC for no other reason than to tease him off. It might be something to do. Anyway, just saying. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. There you go. But yeah, so check out his comic book channel. He still believes in the mainstream, so he does a lot of stuff mainstream, connected. I don't on my channel very much, to be honest, but
fair enough.
But I push independent comics. But if you still,
it's like what I always do is like I have a show on every Sunday where I talk about past Wonder Woman runs, because the principle of my channel, pretty much, if I could summarize it, is yeah, you may not like what the mainline comics are doing right now, but there's like 80 years of history. I guarantee you'll find a book that you like. So what I kind of do is like, yeah, the Tom King run is crap on Wonder Woman, but there's like a ton of fantastic Wonder Woman runs, because it's like the other thing about Wonder Woman is like I hear all the time, oh, she doesn't have that good story, she doesn't have that much memorable runs, and I go, she does, you just have to look for them. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help you look for them.
I never picked up the Peter David run. Was that any good?
I don't think Peter David ever wrote Wonder Woman. The runs that like I always recommend to people are George Perez, Phil Jimenez, Greg Rucka, the first one, not DC Rebirth, the post-crisis one. And honestly, the John Byrne Wonder Woman really surprised me on how good that run is.
Yeah, John Byrne, I definitely heard that's a good run. So who was the writer for George Perez?
George Perez.
So he wrote and
he wrote and drew it, and it was like the project he wanted, because you can definitely detect when you read throughout these Wonder Woman runs, you can tell which ones wanted to write Wonder Woman, because it's like when you it's like when you read like Chris Claremont's on the X-Men, you could tell he loved these characters, and it's like he understood them. Yeah, exactly. He understood them so well. When you read like George Perez Wonder Woman, you can feel in every single page that this man adored this character, and he did. It's like Phil Jimenez is the same thing. Greg Rucka, all these guys. It's like when they, or it's like Absolute Wonder Woman. You can tell that like a lot of you can tell when a creator loves the characters. Whereas like with Tom King, it's clear it's just the story. It's just a job to him. Even though he may say it's not, but that's just because it's like he didn't even want to write Wonder Woman in the first place. I'm like, that's your first mistake, because all these other creators, they wanted Wonder Woman.
He's the king of deconstruction.
But he never reconstructs them. That's the thing. It's like
he doesn't put them back together. No,
it's like Perez did stories that were like deconstructive of Wonder Woman. So did Rucka. So did Jimenez. However, what they always did immediately after is they built them back up. It's like, look, it's like, yes, Wonder Woman's going through a tough time, but eventually she will build back and better and more like understand, because she has grown as a character. And that is how you can, that is the beauty of this character, and the beauty of like, that's the thing, because with these god level powered characters, too many times people say like DC characters, because they're like gods, are like unrelatable and stuff, but it's like, no, you can have creative challenges to them, and it's like challenges that like even God that can bring gods down to earth. And when you do that, you show that like if the gods can't like come down to earth but still rise up, I can.
Right. But you know, it's the whole aspirational thing, which is always good to have. You know, like my character, you know, he could probably lift a ship by himself. So I mean, but at the same time, if I can get you to identify with him, then I've done my job. But anyway, but thank you for coming, Jared. I hope I got you a few more eyeballs on your campaign. Hopefully,
I hope so too.
44 people checking this out, and hey, check it out. It's over in the description. It's also over in the chat if you want to check this thing out. It is Athena, Goddess of Thunder, and it's a pretty cool looking book. Just check it out. Anyway, that's been good for Telepathic Bunny Comics. Y'all have a very good night. Follow the White Rabbit. You got anything to say before we go, Jared?
Thank you for having me on. And yeah, back Athena, if you like some fun superhero comics and you want to see what Wonder Woman should be.
Okay. There you go. That'd be a good tag. If they weren't stupid.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Have a good night. See you later, guys.
Have a good night.
Be right back.
I think we're still live, so I'm going to go. See you guys later.
Sorry, everybody. They moved the button on me. There we go.